Okay, welcome. This is Bring It In. I'm Molly Abbott, and this is Rachel Thorpe.
Hi.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the coronavirus and our lives.
Yeah. So I'm a high school senior. So with that, I don't really get like a good senior year. I wasn't gonna go to prom or anything, but now I'm not able to. Like, I don't have a graduation. I don't have a grad bash. I don't have a senior prom. So like that kind of stinks with that whole like quarantine thing. But then again, like I am being safe and I'm not getting the virus. Um, But a lot of my friends don't really care, which is like bad. They're like still going out and like hanging out with their friends and like going on boats and kind of like going around the rules because like the beaches are closed. But they're still like hanging out and like going to the beaches basically. Um, so like that's not good. So it also kind of sucks on my end too because like I am being safe, but then again I'm going on like Instagram and Snapchat and seeing all of them like hanging out and I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks, but I'm being safe and like in the long run that's better. But still, because it's supposed to be my senior year and like spring break and like I miss them, but I can't go out and see them. So
Yeah, I'm a junior in high school. And so for me, this is very much like the academic year, like get all your hard classes in. And a lot of my classes will probably be pass or fail,
yeah.
which I hopefully will pass, but it's going to be a lot. The whole like college application process and everything has changed so much because all my college visits were going to be over spring break.
Oh, true.
I don't know when I'm going to take the SAT because I was going to take it in March and May, and both of them were canceled.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll be able to get them in this summer. And schools have stopped taking SAT subject tests, but I did take those and get good scores. So and AP tests are going to be at home now. So my entire
Yeah, I
AP
heard that.
score will
That's
be
crazy.
on one essay. Yeah, so that's a little much. But yeah, as far as my friends, they're all seniors and are having like the same thing, and it's just really like sad to see my last few months with all my best friends are spent over Zoom.
True. Yeah. Same
What
here,
have you
because
been
like
doing to like have you guys been zooming with your friends or
I
like
mean, yeah, I'm just on like group FaceTimes. Um, but the same here because I was supposed to go to all my friends are going to different schools, and I was supposed to go to Hawaii in May, which I normally try to brag because I know people are like sick, and I'm like I can't go to Hawaii, but that was I was supposed to like was supposed to be the time where like I could hang out with all of them, and then when I leave, and then I'm going to summer for college, and so now like that time is like extended because I'm not going to Hawaii and I'm not probably won't even go to college for summer. I'm guessing that's going to be online. They haven't sent out anything yet, but I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. So I do get to spend more time with them, maybe. But then again, like I don't know when this whole thing is like going to be over. So like that time might not even like happen, you know. And like that was like my last time to really like hang out with my friends before we all like leave. You
yeah.
know.
I don't know if this is, so my friends and I have been doing Zoom. We've been making cahoots about ourselves
Oh my God,
and
that's
then
so
doing
cute.
them over Zoom. Yes. And so they're also like questions like, what did I have for lunch today? Or like, for those of you who don't know, Kahoot is a thing we do in school. So it's where there's on like a projector, or if you're doing it over Zoom, it's like you share your screen and it has the questions, and then everyone on their phones has like the answer choices, and so you have to answer correctly and as fast as you can. And so it's super funny because they're all like, who's my celebrity crush, and you're finding out things about like these like fun facts about your friends. And yeah, well, one night we stayed up till like 1 a.m. just like making more cahoots about ourselves.
That's so smart. I never even thought about doing that. No, I'm literally gonna make one with my friends now. That's honestly a really fun game to do with them if like you can't see them.
Right. We're also thinking of doing like a presentation night where you make like a Google Slides on like something fun and like present it to the group.
Dude, that's really funny. You guys are so like smart, and we're just like we're on group FaceTime like talking about TikTok. Like that's what we talk about.
We
And
do
you guys
that
are like,
too. We
let's do
do daily
presentations and
8:30 a.m. breakfasts. We really have like a schedule worked out.
that's crazy. Well, you guys also so I know you're doing all of like your stuff is online with like Zoom classes and stuff like that. But I don't have that because since I'm at a community college, everything that I submit is already online. So like I don't even like see my friends in that time. Like my friends run Zoom calls with their friends from school, like doing their homework together. So I don't even get to do that just because mine was already online in the first place. So I don't like see anyone. I don't like do FaceTimes about school. So, but that's really cool that you guys are doing that. I didn't even think about it. That's like another way to like stay close with everyone as well.
Yeah. How are you staying busy? What are you doing?
Oh my God. Well, I'm doing homework because school online, I thought it was going to be easier, but it's honestly pretty hard. Like, it's
Yeah.
not, I was like, oh, I can just like look everything up, but like you can't, you actually have to study. But I've been watching a lot of TV, which my dad is not happy about, but sorry, Dad. Um, and I've been like going on walks. I'm doing like 4 miles a day, and then I'm like working out, going outside, I'm like laying out. And then watching Max play video games. Basically, that's it.
We just got a question. Are teachers actually teaching, or are you doing most work by yourselves? What are you
You can
doing?
well, mine is some of my teachers are uploading like videos of themselves teaching the lectures. So those are awesome. But my teachers do that. That's awesome. But most of the time, you just do it yourself. They're like, oh, here are the chapters. Learn it yourself. So that's the hard part with that because it's not like you're getting like your teacher's perspective, and your teachers make the test. So it's like when you're getting a lecture from your teachers, you're getting everything that's going to be on the test. And when they're just giving you the book, it's you don't really know.
Yeah, I have a couple teachers that are doing like live lectures. I know like my film class and my calculus class were doing live lectures, and then for some I have the video recordings, which are nice because you can still like do it whenever you want. But then I'm surprised at how many teachers it's just like all on your own. Like my
Yeah.
history class is completely 100% on my own. And so it's honestly I think the biggest challenge with online school is like making my own lesson plans, like
Yeah, you
deciding
get
when I'm gonna
lazy.
do what because things are due at such weird times.
Yeah. And also when you don't have a schedule, when you like wake up and you're still at home, you have to go anywhere and you can still stay in your pajamas. It's hard to like get out of that. It's hard to like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to write this essay. You're just lazy because there's so many distractions. When you're at school, when you're in class, you can't really go on your phone, you're like you're focused in on that one class. When you're at home, like you're at home, this is your safe spot. So it is kind of hard to like get out of that lazy like format and just like grind and like do it.
We have another question. What if you don't understand something? So I know my teachers, they host like, so in my actual school, we have this thing called tutorial, which is an optional block. Um, and so we have 4 blocks a day, and then fifth block is optional, and the buses leave before it. And so we still have that where teachers are on from like 2 to 3, just like on Zoom, and you can join if you have a question, or to like edit your essay or something like that. Do you have
Mine
that?
mine is just you just email them because that was always before. Everything we submitted was always online. So if you do have a question, you either could talk to them in person when we were going to school, or you just send them an email and they like respond back quickly. So it's the same there. Um, and yeah, I'm in public school. I go to a community college, but it's a public school. And what about you, Molly?
I go to a ginormous public school.
Yeah. Um, so I feel like it's kind of just depends. It also depends on the teachers though, because my math teacher, if I don't understand anything, it's really hard to email him like exactly what I don't understand because it's like college algebra. Like that's kind of hard to be like, oh, I don't get. So you're kind of on your own with that one. That's like the worst thing that I have to teach myself math on my own because math is not my strong suit, and we're kind of getting to like a hard part in the semester. So that's like the issue that I'm having. So I kind of just have to focus more time and like use other websites to help me like understand my math homework.
So we're gonna wrap it up with us, but we'd like to introduce our dads. Here's David and Henry with "Bring It In." What can we learn from this?
Thank you, girls.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies.
Do I leave this meeting?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You can close
You
it
can
out.
stay. Thank you,
Just exit
Molly.
out.
No problem. Grab my phone.
How's it going, David?
Hey, buddy, that was good.
Next generation. We didn't really know what was happening even 10 minutes ago. So it's kind of exciting. They just did it. Like that's what happened. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of sets the tone. You published a piece I wrote yesterday, just to use your favorite word, delightful plays of LeBron, just to put smiles on our faces. And so I thought, well, you thought too. Initially, I just suggested Molly come on, and then Molly said, "We'll have Rachel come on too." They're delightful girls, and so I'm definitely smiling.
And then you got a little mad because I said that Rachel was confused about what the mission was, and I said that the problem was that we were two crusty old white guys.
Yeah.
And that word crusty got you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm crusty. I don't need to be called crusty. Like it's a given. And yes, I do see a little of your whiskers. I'd never noticed that.
Yeah, I
before.
haven't shaved all week. All right, so we actually did have some planning for today. The idea is our first show was on March 16th. Prim Superpet was here, and the topic was, what is the lesson of all this? Since then, we've had about an hour show every weekday. So now we're at, I think this is our 15th hour, and it's been a lot. I'll quickly run through. Prim's Terrific Pat, Ben Cohen talking about his book, The Hot Hand. Ben Weber, my college roommate. That was memorable. Ethan Sherwood-Strauss talking about his book, Victory Machine. Christy Oshwinden, science writer who was talking about her book, Good to Go. That was, by the way, that was the first show that was actually called Bring It In. History moment.
Yeah.
And David Epstein and Noah Galutin, that was the day we made, that was another experiment in live theater. Carvel Wallace, Ryan Pannone, Erie Bayhawks head coach, Dwayne Casey, Pistons head coach, Grievous Vasquez, former NBA player, sometimes coach. Then this Monday was Bobby Jones, live from Verona, Italy. Dana Smith, science writer from Elemental. Daniel Coyle, I think we both really enjoyed that. And David Epstein, of course, was here yesterday talking more in depth about range. And so idea of today was, just when you and I've been talking on the phone regularly, we're a little like overwhelmed with all the crazy, interesting crap we've learned. We're going to try to unpack a little bit some of our favorite things we've learned so far, right?
Exactly. I'll be honest. I liked every show. After Daniel Coyle, I texted you that I thought like that was just the best, only because his subject matter is just so near and dear to my heart. But then I thought Dana Smith was amazing. I thought Christy was amazing. Grievous's story, I'll never forget. I have not been to Italy. I know you have, but your reaction when he described driving in that cab around the Colosseum when no one is around. I remember you telling me how crazy traffic was in Italy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Rome.
And so I picture that scene. That's like from an apocalyptic movie.
Yeah.
Where you're driving around the Colosseum. So I thought those are great. But I thought David yesterday was so helpful. The science writers and David have really helped me, at least I think, get a better understanding of what it is, that's happening now. And so, yeah, I'm anxious as just a basketball coach really to talk to you about what I think I've learned about this. And then have you tell me how wrong I am. Because I may not really understand what
Sounds fun.
but I think I understand.
It's like a terrible game show.
But no, so seriously, all of us in America, Henry, my wife and I, Christy, talk about this a lot. It's all happening so fast. It was just a few weeks ago we were told how awful masks were, which made no sense to me. But now we realize the reason why was because you're having to touch your face. But now we're realizing we're all playing blackjack in a sense, right? It's all about probabilities. And so even if you touch your face and have a mask, you still are less likely to inhale the virus than you would be otherwise. And so unless you are just constantly putting your fingers in your mouth, it's a good thing. But 2 weeks ago, it was a terrible thing, right?
I do not want to be an expert here, but the article I saw this morning was that it largely is about you not exhaling and spitting, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know that it does much for you, but I think the population is there's less snot all over the ShopRite checkout counter if everyone's wearing a mask, right?
Right.
Less aerosolized coronavirus if everyone's wearing a mask. But well, as long as Judy's here. Judy, are you available? Would you like to join us? There's a chance we're about to get Judy. Yeah, she is. Hey, there's Judy. How's it going?
It's a little nuts. I've got
Yeah.
maybe 2 people in my house now sick. So keeping them separate and away from my son and myself is tricky, and we're figuring it out.
How are you doing that?
Television, just so much television.
Everybody's glued to a screen. And so I imagine your heart is beating like 20% faster than normal.
So as you know, I'm normally behind the scenes, and I am like the person behind the curtain. And I don't come on and I don't talk usually because I've just been really enjoying listening and doing the like, you know, keeping the lights on kind of thing. But I really wanted to say that like watching Bring It In and listening to these experts, I feel like what really Bring It In has been talking about, and what I feel like True Hoop tries to live every day, is just how to optimize performance. And optimizing is the same in a pandemic, and it's the same in a basketball court or a gym. It's get enough sleep, make sure you're listening to your body and really hearing yourself, be vulnerable. And I've been taking those lessons to heart. So like right now is extremely stressful, but I've been making sure that I'm like doing the things that I know are nurturing to me. And I have just really loved hearing all of these experts speak in informed, heavily researched, I guess, sound bites about things that they wrote and researched way before the pandemic happened, but it seems so incredibly applicable now. That's what I've been just like consuming from this, and it feels very nourishing.
I'll be totally honest. There was a moment, so we all felt a little unmoored, I think, right? We're all like, whoa, there's no normal, etc. I had a Zoom moment of Christy Ashwanden, who is very knowledgeable science writer, but there's another thing going on there too, where she's a little bit of and I couldn't say this with more respect, a little bit of a Yoda character. Yes. Her tone of voice, her like I had a moment over Zoom where I'm like, this is the person that I want to hear from in these times. I was like, I went from like kind of zero real people in my life who felt like they understood what's happening on the planet right now to like, oh, now there's one. Like it's Christy.
I feel the same way. And the moment for me was when she was like, and have a glass of wine.
Yes, of course.
With you. And I was like,
oh, I thought she said martini. I thought she said martinis.
Whatever it takes.
Like, I do love that, like, the mega dorks, as the term that I stole from Judy, like, we're mega dorks and most of the guests are mega dorks. But what I love is this has been going on for years now. Like, if you go through all of the academic research and all of the big brains and all of the processing, you end up at this place of like love. Like that nerdistry takes you to this surprising thing of just like compassion and being supportive and validating people. Like, is actually what works. And it's what.
Oh.
I'll just note that when we relaunched True Hoop together back in February of 2019, you sent me Culture Code with Daniel Coyle, and that's sort of been like the guiding principles of True Hoop as a company and the kind of company that like we've been trying to build. It was so cool to hear him talking about it in the context of athletes and training athletes and what leadership looks like in times of great, trouble. And it just felt like, oh my gosh, it applies to everything, right? It applies to being a parent. And David, I'm actually reading No Easy Day right
now.
Wow. Because of that piece that you wrote. I was like, well, this is my parenting manual. You had talked about this one part in the book where he's talking about how he accidentally discharges his gun into the kitchen wall.
Wood floor,
And his father responds very calmly and just makes him go through it all over, like the step-by-step process of how to clean your gun properly. And I was like, I want to be that parent. Like, I want to be that person, that leader. So now I'm reading it as an instruction manual, and for better or for worse for my kids, because I'm like, drill sergeants are really smart.
Wait, so by like next Thursday, your kids are going to take down Bin Laden? Is that where this is going?
No, there are times where we probably need to panic. Like I was just telling my kids this yesterday. When they're 2 years old and they're able to kind of run around and they're near the road and they're getting towards the road, you're allowed to use your big boy voice, right? Or your big girl voice and really kind of be hysterical. Like, no, never do that again, ever. But not when they spill milk on the table, right? And when you do what that young boy did, well, he's grown up when he wrote the book. If you get hysterical, then you've created a much bigger problem. Especially if you value hunting, which I don't, but he did, the family did. You could really scarred that boy for life. And instead, clearly, it's a bonding thing that now that man feels, and with idolatry. Like my dad really stood up. But I do want to say something, guys, about the word nerd and dork.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get mad at me for this. I mean, I don't dislike those words. I don't use those words even now more than ever because I feel like we have enough science deniers, enough ignorance, maybe more than I've ever remembered in my lifetime, or certainly as an adult. And we should praise and value and adore and love anyone that's serious about any decent kind of subject to be serious about. Certainly as it relates to science right now. And so if we can all agree that nerds and dorks are amazing and we greatly value them, fantastic. But I grew up in those words. They weren't terrible words, but they weren't the best words to call someone a nerd or a dork. And we need as many nerds and dorks as we possibly can in our lives because they're the ones figuring stuff out. So let's just make sure. I know you're saying this with complete love and affection. And I was on a show for years after ESPN called Nerder She Wrote. So it's not a bad word to me. But I just want to make it clear that we need as many people who have the capacity to study something in depth. I mean, I do it for basketball. That's not helping many people mostly. But these people are, and we need them in our lives every goddamn day.
I hate it. I'll be honest though, I feel aggressive about it. I feel like the word queer in the 80s, right? It's like, no, we're taking that, right? Yeah. Like we don't let you have that. Like Judy's husband, John, when he was like 15, had a bumper sticker on his wall that said, "Be kind to dorks. You're going to work for one day." Right? Like, yeah, right. It's aggressive. Like you're a loser. Like the dorks are going to eat you alive. Yeah. And we're not scared of that word at all. Right? Like yeah. I think we just can't, this 8th grade conception of like, oh, I'm worried that I'm too studious. Like, no. Yeah, like, wrong, always wrong, never worked, like, and now wronger than ever, right? Like, I'm sorry that we have people like that in positions of authority, but I'm not giving it up. You know what I mean? I feel like it's I don't want to let that word ever be used as an insult, right?
Yeah, exactly. We just want to make sure I think everyone who watches anything you're doing knows, yeah, we greatly value that. And Revenge of the Nerds was a movie I saw in the movie theater in the 80s, and I was rooting for them every step of the way. And people would have called me probably a jock in high school because I played basketball, but I just never saw it that way. I like decent people, you know me. As long as you're decent, I don't really care what else about you. But if you're decent and super smart and interested in studying something down to the minutia, fantastic. All the better.
I look at I've been using nerd and dork with nerds and dorks for decades now, and by and large, they're into it. The one exception is Dean Oliver. Dean Oliver's like, that wasn't cool. Like, people called me that, and it was uncomfortable. I don't like you using it now, so I don't call Dean that. Yeah. But to me, I look at people when I call them that to their face. But I often find myself face to face with someone who's like, well, I don't want to cite a bunch of research and make the conversation boring. And then I'll say, oh, we're all dorks here. And then they feel comfortable, going there. It's just like I don't know, maybe I shouldn't, but I'm a dork.
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I'm not criticizing that. I'm only making sure that, we're not a basketball, jocular show. We are not, we are about the science behind things and studying stuff. I mean, I just don't write about. I hope no one thinks I write about basketball like some dumb guy. I'm paying attention to what's happening.
Yeah. There was I was just looking back at our shows, and it's funny. I think my two favorite moments were not really dorky at all. They were extremely passionate. One was I had read and enjoyed this part of Carvel Wallace's Profile of Riz Ahmed where the Humvee pulls up next to them, but he told it with the voice. So there's a crazy painted up Humvee with like radiation stickers and stay away and blah, blah. And then Riz Ahmed rolls down the window and says like, you know, hey buddy, like what's going on with your story? And turns out he's like a stuntman, clown, French Hasidic Jew who does birthday parties. And then Carvel did Riz's voice, and he's like, "Did you see that, bro? Like, that's what it is. He's the one. That's what he does." Like, and like Carvel was so excited about that, and that was like, I don't know exactly. I was maybe I'll feel warm and fuzzy inside. And the other one was Grievous Vasquez. Like, he had this epic tale of he was stuck in Italy, and just had this like fire lit in his chest that he had to get back to his family in Florida. And, you know, planes, trains, and automobiles. And I think he talked for 25 minutes straight. Yeah. But just like the whole point was like, I want to be with my kids. Right?
It's going to be a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
It won't be his movie, but someone is going to make a movie about getting home to their kids when they were in Italy, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to happen. So Henry and Judy both, where are we at? Not just from what you've learned from the show, but with all your reading in the Times and New Yorker and everything else you follow and whatever you watch on TV or don't watch or hear and on Twitter, where do you think we're at? And like, what's besides the obviously fatalities in New York, but where do you think we're going in the next few weeks? I'd like to know, because I have my own thoughts. I want your thoughts on what you think, like where we're at and where we're going.
I don't know if this is just where I live and the great luck and fortune that I have for the amazing company that I generally keep, but I just feel like people are getting nicer and that there's more kindness now, and people working harder to see gratefulness and to feel gratefulness in like even the small things. And I was going to say, actually, my favorite part of these, of Bring It In, is something that nobody else gets to see. Gerard, are you in Soma as well? It's Soma, not Maps. Anyway, is that the guests that come on write us like that it was actually healing and really helpful for them, that it felt wonderful to be on the show. And then I get a sweet text from David and Henry just being like, that was the best show we did. This was so great. And I'm just like, oh, this is so wonderful. Like we're doing a really great thing here.
We like it.
Yeah. And it feels nice to kind of be a space for that. But I do actually think like this is forcing people to just maybe back up and be a little nicer, which I just feel like we needed more niceness, right? We needed to be kinder.
I agree. I also think we need you on the show more. I texted Henry this morning before I knew you'd be on. After I watched your show with Henry on the Substack Zoom, I was up at 4 this morning, so was my wife. So by 5:30, I realized, okay, I'm done reading Twitter, and I found your video, and so I spent an hour watching that this morning. And Judy, you're amazing. And I know when we're talking about like X's and O's on the basketball court, you probably don't even want to be on. But when we're not, as much as which is typical, as much as you can get on, I've told Henry many times, I'm happy to step off and I'll learn to be the lights on producer behind the scenes because your voice needs to be heard.
Well, thank you. That's really nice. I like being behind the curtain more than just a nerd behind the curtain. But thank you. That's very good.
She's also like an army colonel, like running like multiple operations simultaneously. Right. This is just like a there are now 4 characters in the house, all of whom need some direction from Judy. David, you asked to open a question about where this is going. I'll tell you one thing is like all of these things are not going to amount to nothing, right? Like all, there are humans with actual immunization, in trials in their blood right now, right? There's the convalescent plasma we've been talking about with David Epstein. I think there might be I've seen articles of 2 different real immunization trials where we might really be immunized against this, 12 to 18 months from now. All of the, did you see this thing about the people who use hydrogen peroxide gas to make N95 masks reusable? They can clean 80,000 a day, which is, so this one facility they're opening on Sunday outside Boston in Newton can service hospitals for all of New England. And so these masks they should throw away. So anyway, and on, we have been in a bunch of receiving knowledge of just everything was prepared terribly, and there will be excess death because of it, and it's a giant tragedy. Pandemic is the worst word basically in English language, right? But so we absorbed all that, you take it in, but now it's okay, but some of these things will work, right? Some of these things will make it a little better. And I just believe, the tests will come online. Once we have a lot more tests, I think things get very different because we can start actually planning things, right? But who gets the therapy? How do we divide the resources, and on and on. But I don't know. My thought is it's gonna be bad. We always knew that. As soon as the pandemic starts, it's gonna be bad. But I think that I'm hopeful that some collection of these amazing collaborations will start making real differences in the weeks to come, and then we'll have, a little crack in a little hint of daylight, and then a bigger hint of daylight, and at some point.
What would that daylight look like?
Well, we see it in China.
All of my friends in my arms like babies and just kissing them everywhere.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Judy's gonna need refreshers on personal space.
No, everybody needs to just be aware. I'm gonna attack all of you with hugs and kisses, and I'm gonna stroke your hair, or your head, whatever.
Just seriously,
does that answer?
What will daylight when the numbers are coming down and the curve is really flat, whatever, and we're not worried about overwhelming hospitals anymore? Do you think 30% of the population that's outside is going to wear a mask? 60%? Just what is that whole world going to look like then, do you think?
I mean, I don't even think we know,
Right, just a guess. So
how many Americans are recovered from coronavirus on that day, and what immunity does that convey them, right? If 60% of America is not a risk to get the coronavirus, then we are at a severely diminished likelihood of having a second wave of the pandemic, right? But if it's only 20% are recovered or 10% are recovered, then it's different conversations. And all these tests and or another question is, if an immunocompromised person does get a positive test, do we now have therapies standing by that really work, right? Can they get Marcus Smart's blood, for instance? That's what I want. If I get sick, I want Marcus Smart's blood. Okay, I just want to be on record. But I think so maybe you hold a big event without a lot of social distancing. If we think that in the worst case scenario, someone gets sick, we can really treat them well, right? And we have adequate resources for that. We don't know the answers to those things now, but I think we'll have a lot more.
I know long term, I know one thing that's going to result from this is there's a whole bunch of really, really smart young people like your daughter that are going to they're exposed to now something they've never even thought about as a career, even at a young age. They might have learned it when they got to college and grad school, but now it's right here. Hey, I can be someone who's working on making sure we never go through this again. I could spend 30 years of my career just trying to prevent the next pandemic. And how amazing is that? So the attraction for brain power is going to increase, I think, for this particular field, which we could really use.
I do also think, just based on my family in Korea, Asia has experienced pandemic-like, not global pandemic, but countrywide pandemic-like scenarios in the past, and there's just a sobering effect that happens where, in Korea, wearing a mask is not an unusual thing. It's a sign of politeness, right? So you wear it the first time you think you might be sick with anything, and so at any given day, people are wearing masks, and everyone is grateful. It's like a nice courtesy that people do. I think
Have you worn it? Have you worn a mask? Is that something you've
I mean,
done?
I wear masks now. I hadn't before,
Yeah.
but I remember when I was living in Korea, and this was back, forever ago, you'd see them everywhere. Like everyone always has, it's just like paper towels. It's a staple that you have in your house and you keep them. And if you're feeling sick and you have to go out, you wear the mask. So I imagine that's probably going to be something that we see a little more. And I think the maybe benefit will be that during flu and cold season, I mean, my kids get everything. And some of it is just when you see like school practices for how to clean the school and when you can and cannot let your child go to school. I just think we're going to get smarter about that and be a little more careful, and that might actually just be generally better for everyone. That's my theory.
I know when my kids were 2, we sent them to preschool. They went for 2 days a week for 2 hours a day. And then at 3, it was 3 days a week, 3 hours a day. And we were told by dear friends of ours, Henry Smith, the Leaf family, their godparents, they said basically you're going to send them 2 days a week, 2 hours a day, but they're going to miss 60% of that time because they're going to get sick, and let them just deal with it. And they were right. And we never once gave them antibiotics. We actually would throw them in the pool all the time, just to blow it out in the big chlorine pool. There wasn't a medical suggestion. This is what I grew up doing the same thing. And so I wonder, because what you said is what we were thinking about the other day. That part might backfire. If you're afraid to send your 2-year-old to even get a common cold, like I think it's helped my kids. They pretty much have never had a sick day since they were 2. And I think part of it's luck, but it's also because I think their bodies just learn to deal with it. And Chrissy she was not going to give them medicine. They're going to fight it. And we need that. But I do think, generally speaking, of course, once you're past that age, we got to be smarter. Same as in the workforce. Like you can't, as an employee, it's not smart to go to work when you're not feeling well. And you mentioned about masks. My wife went to the market yesterday for my parents and her mom, and she wore her. I had a lifelong friend who she mailed a bunch of us masks, which is a very sweet gesture. My lifelong friend Edie, and so we have 4 because we have a family of 4. And Christy wore her mask in Publix yesterday, and I think that's going to be happening for a while.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I can see games, Henry, being played whenever, and I could see a lot of masks being worn.
I remember thinking when the CDC came out early on with the recommendation not to use masks because you might end up touching your face more.
Yeah.
I remember having to be talked into that. I just remember thinking like, that does not sound right. And I understand the CDC was trying to protect mask stores and everything like that, but it seems it didn't make sense then. I don't think it ever made sense. But maybe we're getting smart to that.
Do you guys think it passes more via hands or breathing, Henry? Is it more the exhale, inhale, or is it, because initially I thought it was touching surfaces, which is why they said don't get the mask.
Well, I mean, just going to repeat what like experts like Dana Smith have told us, right? I think it's like primarily from someone near you coughing or sneezing, right? Like that's, we are all aware that our healthcare professionals who are expert in this feel very concerned that they don't have really good masks, right?
Yeah.
So noted.
Exactly.
I don't feel particularly, well, actually, I had one other really big clue. Did you guys see, I think it was a week ago now, there was a general who talked about how they're going to fix up the Javits Center in these New York hotels.
Yes.
Right? So he was like, look, so think about this. They have tons of real estate at their disposal. The mayor and the governor are giving them buildings, right? But they weren't just putting patients in there. They had to do something first. Well, what was that? They had to change the airflow. They had to make this negative airflow. I'm like, whoa, like what a giant pain in the butt to change how the air flows in every hotel room that they can get their hands on. What a lot of work. Obviously, they think it's crazy important that the air not be hanging around, right? So, I mean, just from those clues and what we learned from, Dana and others, it seems like both, right? You definitely don't want to be breathing the aerosolized droplets if you can avoid it. But at the same time, they had near zero. I don't know if these numbers are accurate, but I read that in Hong Kong and Singapore, they had near zero cases of healthcare workers getting sick from patients. And the key difference was not that they had more N95 masks. The difference was that they were actually in close proximity a lot, breathing the same air without the high quality masks, but they were just super rigorous about the other health protocols, mostly washing hands. So I don't know. What do you take from
Mostly
that?
washing hands, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. My other takeaway is that men are disgusting.
Yes, fact.
I'm still completely grossed out by that casual conversation we had where you were like 50% ish of men wash their hands out of a bathroom. I can't, I'm horrified.
Yeah.
Wash your hands, men.
I blame parents. Henry, you have a boy and a girl. You didn't only tell your daughter to make sure she washed her hands. Like we told our sons too. Like, do they just forget when they get older? What's going on?
No, the dads are role modeling not washing their hands, right? Because the boys are going in with their dad. I see it all the time. Like, don't worry, I'm gonna fix it. I'm on this. Like, I'm 40 years into giving him the side eye. It's totally gonna work.
I just want to go up, like, wait at the entry of every bathroom, be like, "Did you wash your hands?" Every time they leave, just be the mom.
Yeah, how's that gonna go? You think? What's the next step after that?
Actually, I think it's a brilliant idea.
I do. I think that
they need you, Judy. We need you. America needs you.
I think we need a little drone. It's like when you come out, there's a little thing that's like, this guy's dirty.
Just shine the light on them like a black light.
Just need a siren. It is, that's a good point, Judy. But as men, we already knew. Henry and I already knew. We're a disgusting part of the species. Half the species is really quite disgusting.
We're sorry.
I'm
very
shocked
sorry
that I found one woman willing to marry me. I certainly knew there weren't going to be two. I hoodwinked one, and that was good enough for me.
I'm very proud. Downstairs, I think as we speak, there's mask sewing happening. We're making masks now. We got a plan and whatever. It's happening, and I think we probably have about 7 or 8 so far, as of a few hours ago, and some of them are cute. We have cute masks.
All right, so we are a true hoop.
Basketball, yeah.
What's your thoughts about? I mean, you made a point to me on the phone today, Henry, which was great, which is we never have to have basketball back again in the grand scheme of things, and I completely agree with you. But unless I'm going to raise sheep as a career, it'd be great if we did, right?
Those are the only 2 choices.
Yeah, for me, I've always said I could probably be a sheep herder or basketball coach and a writer. I have very little talent outside anything else. What do you see, Henry, for what's going to have to happen for the league to do something? And aren't you convinced that they are going to find any way they can to do something? Tonight they're doing the NBA 2K tournament on ESPN and ESPN2, and I think it's going to get amazing ratings. And I told my son, let's tape it. Just because we haven't watched any sports thing together, we're watching Marvel comic hero movies every night with our girls. But what do you think? Walk me through that timeline of what it might look like.
Before we do this, should I switch over to Gerard? He's going to answer this better than
me. Yeah, we always want Gerard here. There we go. I don't they can't have anything until the curve is going down, right? So it's just out of the question.
Months from now.
Right, and at that time we'll know a lot of stuff we don't know now. So to me, our views on it now are just going to look really stupid, right?
Yeah.
We don't know if we have good testing. We don't know what the therapies are. We don't know, et cetera, et cetera. But I was thinking about was when it was lockout time. When the owners are trying to get a better deal out of the players, they canceled 30, 40 games at the drop of a hat, right? Well worth it to them, right? Well, it's pandemic time now. Imagine we can swallow 30, 40 games, right? For a pandemic, yeah. So yeah, we're gonna lose a bunch of games. I'm guessing the rest of this season, but to me the question is, when they come back, are there audiences? It's really it's not the 30, 40, 50 people who comprise the teams that are the big health risk, right? It's the 20,000. The 20,000 that the league completely forgot to even care about when this was first a risk, right? They're just like, oh, we'll keep journalists away from players. That drives me crazy. I'm so mad that like no human can think that way. Like, no, you're bringing 20,000 paying customers into the arena. Like, that's the concern. Anyway, so that's the big question: is when if you're the CDC, if you're Dr. Fauci, when do you say 20,000 people is a good idea? Because if someone like Dr. Fauci doesn't say it's a good idea, I think they're exposed to lawsuits, and I don't think they're going to do it.
Well, the other thing I wonder about too is, and I'm not saying this is true of Dr. Fauci or anybody else that's in charge, but you guys, you all know that the people who own these NBA teams and run the league are very powerful individuals and have very good connections to people that matter, right? And they can put pressure on people to say, hey, look, we need to make this thing happen. I'm not saying that is happening. I'm just saying that that is something that we need to be mindful of, right? You know, Mark Lazary, Steve Ballmer, like all these people are extreme. It's not just the money. They are extremely well connected and can put pressure on the powers that be to say, hey, this thing needs to happen. I'm like you, Henry. And I said this, I think, one of our first episodes, I would be shocked if we play basketball again this season. Like, I don't see any feasible way, because again, it's not just about the 30, 40, 50 people that are part of the teams. You can't play in front of crowds. It's just, what do you do? Put a tester outside of every building, and then and everybody that's walking in. I mean, we're not set up to do that. I do think, to David's point, though, that tonight the NBA 2K tournament will draw massive ratings. I mean, especially if we keep mics on and those guys are getting mad because they're losing and they throw the controller at their TV because they lost, or they curse or whatever. That's going to get people excited. So that part might be fun for us to do. But I have a funny feeling that the way in which sports and what we do, media as an industry, is going to change dramatically when this is all over. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm actually kind of scared by that, to be honest.
I'm not going to address the media part. I want Henry to do that, but I will say one thing: the difference between the lockout and now is all those billionaire owners, their businesses were still making a ton of money, and Henry knows this way better than me, and if he wants to, he'll know a lot more. Some of them are getting beat up really, really badly, and now they need the teams, right? They need this revenue, so that's why I think they're going to be more willing to put people at risk, because they need it themselves. And your point, Gerard, is great. These are people that know how to get things done for themselves, and they will. And I don't think they're as worried about what might happen. But I can't imagine fans. I definitely agree with that. We're months away from anyone that I know be willing to go to a stadium to watch a game.
Maybe a year, right?
Yeah.
Like who? Yeah. And someone, Henry, and you can speak more to this because you know the billionaire aspect of it. Someone who needs this money more than anything right now because of what his primary business is, Tillman Fertitta, right? He needs all the money right now because hotels and restaurants and what he does, that ain't making any money right now.
Right.
Yeah, John, I love your point about, these are people who can pick up the phone and get things done, right? But that's a terrible power if it allows you to do something that gets you in even bigger trouble, right? So imagine if they had made such phone calls to keep the league running another 2 weeks. Right? When Adam Silver shut it down, right? Imagine what the stories would be now, right? That would be league threatening, right? We still may see lawsuits. We still may see people there might be people who are on ventilators, respirators right now, who got their infection at a Warriors game when there was a big warning on the door, right? Like that could be a thing that happens. We could have our game 0 or whatever here. Hope not. But I think moving forward, that's getting the league opened again when it isn't medically wise might be a terrible thing for the league long term.
I got a question for you guys. Optically, and I know that, the machine that is capitalism has to continue. That's just how life works. Did you think it was a bad optic look when Steve Ballmer bought the Forum for $400 million last week?
Cash. It's almost like my wife always says with his current president, there's so much incredibly corrupt and fraudulent stuff going on. You can't keep track of it. All that's happening here, I forgot about that. I remember hearing people talk about he bought $400 million cash, and I haven't thought about it since. What's your thoughts on that, Henry?
I'm more bothered that that money, if I'm not mistaken, went to James Dolan, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yes, it did
Yes.
because he owes. That's correct.
yeah, that's the bigger problem. Ballmer actually strikes me as, just in the stories you hear as, well, okay, so the NBA has an ownership crisis, right? Tillman Fertitta has proven to be a dreadful choice, right?
Yes.
Dreadful choice. We haven't even heard the worst of it yet. And at a time when they become extremely stringent about making sure everyone has truly deep pockets, right? Because the purchase price is so expensive that very few individuals can purchase teams, right? So, and this thing with the Bucks has not gone well, right? This kind of 50-50 partnership. And also the Hawks had a coalition government that completely fell apart. So they want to have one person come to the meetings, one person make the decisions. And they want that person to be worth many, many billions. And they're very stringent about checking that you really have the money available. I don't know how this guy slipped through. Like,
Yeah.
what a disaster, right? He screwed up the China thing. This coaching treadmill. He's saying all the wrong things on TV. It's a mess. So, in that context, there are not a lot of people left who have so much money that they can spend 2, 3, 4 billion to buy a team and then still be liquid to operate it as an individual. Picking from that list, I think Steve Ballmer's as good as we're ever gonna get, right? Like the people who work for him love him. They're so impressed. It sounds dumb, but like one of the little things is they've told their players they want them to be involved in politics. They want them to weigh in on the presidential election and stuff. Like, do you know how much
And that matters
confidence
to
it
the
takes
players. Yeah.
for that? Like nobody's like that. No one's like that. Everybody gets all like they can hardly even finish a sentence. Watch the PR guy when like the player starts talking a little bit about Barack Obama or something. Everyone's like, "Oh God!" Like, but that's because of the owner. That's why they're nervous, right? So I don't know. To me, Ballmer is, I don't know him. I've never met him. I'm sure he's not perfect, but I was like, I'm so glad that he's in raising his footprint in Los Angeles and making a bigger impact because I think he's one of the owners we want to have leading.
Yeah, I think you, Henry, represent True Hoop in the effort to uncover the truth about owners. I think you kind of own that space now in the basketball landscape. It's just my humble opinion.
I'm the shepherd.
But you haven't declared war on all successful people. The truth is whatever the truth is, and Ballmer got lucky to be a billionaire. He might have had to be conniving. He might have had to break some laws. He wouldn't be the only businessman to do it, successful or not. But I agree with you. I've heard really good things. And I got to know Robert Pira in Memphis, and he's a strange guy. I think he would probably admit that. He's had a strange life. He had no idea he would ever be a billionaire. He came up with an amazing idea and built what seems like an interesting company that's helped a lot of people. He's not a bad person because he was super successful. The problem is those guys are unique in the NBA world, as you write, and so the fear is that the rest of the guys who have this kind of money and power, I'm just hopeful that they're thinking big picture and not just about their bottom line. But
my interest in billionaires really, honestly, is rooted in your aphorism that it's hard to be perfect, but it's not hard to be decent.
Yeah.
And 5 years into covering the NBA, owners are just an accepted fact of life. And there are these kind of strange figures who breeze in sometimes and bark a bunch of orders and then breeze out again. And everyone just kind of hopes that not
right
during that time. Right. But over time, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm actually seeing it. Once you get to know it more and more, you're like, no, we're all living like under the foot of like, oh God, they're just ruining this whole league. Like just insanely selfish decisions all the time. Right. And like actually one guy who has worked in the NBA for a long time was telling me, he's like, Henry, you take this so seriously. Like we all obsess about this draft pick or that. Okay. He's like, we're like a toy on the shelf in a kid's playroom. And he's just going to play with us for a while and then just put it down and forget about it. And like everything we care about is just this little whimsical item that's just going to the people who really run it, they don't care. They don't care about your backup point guard, right? Like, anyway, so
it's a marble in their little bag of marbles.
Yeah. So to me, like it's so clear that, we have prioritized their like whims and needs in the sport and in society, right?
Yes.
and it's just like it's just not working out very well, right? Like, I'm underwhelmed. I remain underwhelmed. Here's what I want. So I want somebody to make like the Academy Awards of the pandemic, where it's like, who were the heroes? Who really had huge
I love
impacts?
this idea.
Who had the ideas that changed the world? And like, whether it's this hydrogen peroxide gas cleaning N95 masks, or whether it's, this doctor who worked for 24 hours straight, or whatever. People are doing amazing, heroic things.
Right.
And when we put together those awards and look at the impact of the different work, like, there won't be any billionaires that I've seen so far who would make the top 100, right? Like,
Not even
America is
close.
fixing America. Billionaires are not. They're like, social media is blowing up about paying stadium workers. Okay, we got $100K for that just so I can buy a little PR. I'm like, I know there's been more than that, but it hasn't been that like these super, super deep pocketed families are the ones who've come forward with like, or Josh Harris, give me a break. Like, Josh Harris
Yeah,
tries
please.
to take money from his employees, gets in a bunch of trouble, and then like 5 press releases of like, wait, I paid for this and that and this and that. It's like, bro, you already lost this one. I'm sorry.
They are they are, look, and again, I'm like you, David and Henry. I don't begrudge people for being ultra successful. Like, it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's the way in which we as a society value that more than anything else, as if that is the thing that matters. And it makes them like, above other, and it doesn't. Like, some of them are like not good people, and we've seen it. Like, we've actually haven't heard anything from billionaires at all in terms of how they can help. Nothing. Like Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, like, oh, where are they? I mean, I know where they are, bunkered or sequestered on their private islands and away from everybody else. But we've heard nothing about how they can help, because really they could all help, right? And it wouldn't do anything to damage their day-to-day life at all. But that's not what they think about.
Yeah.
I know we're late. I want to say
late.
one thing, Henry. I told you on the phone that do we have to go? Do we have another minute?
Do it.
Okay. I was just my wife decided we're going to do Thanksgiving tonight. And
She missed. She's way off.
I think that she, don't tell her that, she's making the apple pie and the turkey and everything.
Oh wow.
We are going to, and our kids have to dress up. We already told them, which we don't do it for normal Thanksgivings, but I think we should do a Thanksgiving every spring in America. And actually, we're thankful for our healthcare workers. Our original Thanksgiving is a bunch of hoo-ha. We know now how ridiculous it is that we're thanking for what we did for Thanksgiving in the first place. This is legit, and it's happening right now. And I hope that we do it annually as a country to remember right now what people are doing. They didn't sign up. No healthcare worker signed up to put their own lives at risk all day long, every day for weeks and months at a time. And almost all of them are still doing it. And we need to commemorate that with a national holiday and thank them in a public way. And so they know we see you. And that's what we're gonna talk about tonight at dinner. How can each of 4 of us make sure healthcare workers know we see you and we thank you and we're thinking of you. And I hope that other people recognize to do the same.
I was gonna say like thank you for your service, but you're just feasting. Like it's like totally.
I'm a vegetarian at night, so I'm just gonna eat the vegetables. But yeah, we're gonna be eating well. But we're gonna be talking a good game.
This is genius, David. Think about this. Yeah, have a fantastic meal. Yay, doctors.
Yay.
We can have a parade for them.
Yeah, that's good. When we
That's
can parade
awesome.
again.
We're gonna have
All right. Thank you for joining us for the weirdest show.
The best show
we've ever. Thanks to Rachel and Molly and Gerard, David. All right, bring it in. We'll be here next week with actual shows, actual guests. Thank you.